In today's episode, stop yelling, you're going to make me crash. You want a weekend off? Sure. In fact, have every day off. Manager tries to make life difficult for me, doesn't know as per my contract it benefits me. So let's get started. Stop yelling, you're going to make me crash. Let me tell you a short story of me and two former friends on a short trip to France. We live in Germany and only an hour away from the border, so we agreed on a quick day trip by car. Let's call the friend that is driving her car Brenda, because I know she would hate that, no offense to Brendas that read this, and the other friend in the back sneaky Patricia. Her name will make more sense in a minute. Brenda doesn't have her license for long, maybe a couple of months, and doesn't even have the necessary experience yet to justify her reckless driving in general. We're talking about turning without speeding down enough, trying to compensate it with steering and going whoops every time instead of using the F***king brakes like a person that cares about their passengers. She was also texting and smoking while driving, sometimes simultaneously, and it didn't matter what kind of road she was driving on. She behaved like an experienced driver in any way, just without the experienced driving part, and neither did she try to take more care while driving. So as a co-pilot and the responsibilities that come along with it, this woman puts me in a difficult situation, because how else would it be? Brenda does not take criticism well. On the mentioned day we're approaching a red light with a car in front of us and Brenda is reaching for her phone. I hold back thinking she is checking the time or whatnot. She gets stuck on the screen, although I already let her know that it makes me uncomfortable, and I yell watch out. She hits the brakes, and we don't crash into the car in front of us. She begins to lash out at me saying, "What the F***ck? I got it under control, stop irritating me, and just shut the F***ck up when I'm driving, cause you yelling around is gonna make me crash, not me." It was something like that, I think. I'm completely pissed at this point, because not only is this woman putting us in danger, but also not capable of learning from her apparent mistakes. So I shut the F***ck up. I'm silent for the rest of the drive through the city we wanted to visit, and we reach a parking garage. Back when I was a beginner, I remember parking garages as narrow nightmares, seeing my dad yelling at me for the scratches I would get the car at the next turn. Luckily it never happened to me, because I was cautious enough until now, but I bet you can guess who is not feeling so cautious today. Brenda sees a parking spot she likes and just goes for it. Judging from her confidence, one would assume that she has been driving since preschool. Unfortunately, this only applies to her confidence. I think back then, she didn't grasp the concept of parking yet, which is to make your car go slower, so it comes to a F***king stop, girl. The result speaks for itself. She is too fast and turning into the spot like a cool driver in a movie scene. I see it coming, yet I hold back. And it happens. The front right forcefully caresses the concrete pillar which separates the chosen parking spot from another. Imagine the long, loud and gruesome sound every car owner fears. Imagine the echo carrying it to the farthest corner of the garage. Imagine my face going stiff from trying to keep my posture. And now imagine the first thing this maniac said after she recovered from the shock: "You saw it happening but didn't say anything on purpose." Of course I'm not surprised and take a deep breath to do what I had to do. I lied the shit out of her, claiming I didn't say anything because she knows the car better when it comes to parking, so I didn't want to irritate her with that either. This is where Sneaky Pat comes into play. I'm sure you already forgot about her being all passive and shit. She jumps in only to raise suspicion and retreats to the back seat because she immediately remembers how Brenda can get. She sensed the danger but had to up her chances for car privilege. She wanted to drive back because her too had made her license in the recent past, but was even more of a beginner. I stuck through my lie for a certain reason. I wanted to take myself out of the situation to have Brenda assess the result by herself. I did not want to give her a chance to shove the blame off on me, so she can avoid reflecting on her behavior. Even Sneaky Pat confessed afterwards that she had been worried about her safety too and realized she had to sit this one out quietly as to not offer any vulnerabilities which could hinder Brenda's mental metamorphosis towards a responsible driver. In the end, Brenda had no choice but to accept the situation and deal with it herself. The outcome was disappointing, the trip was ruined and we had to drive back because she wasn't in the mood for it anymore. I can't say I didn't feel bad for her. I can't say she didn't deserve it. I can't say what I did was right. But what I can say is that karma is one hell of a drug. You want a weekend off? Sure. In fact, have every day off. First off, this isn't my story, it took place a few years before I was even born. Some background info: my family comes from a rural farming community in eastern Canada. My grandfather on my father's side, plus his 6 brothers and sister, lobbied our MLA back in 1982 to bring our community a volunteer fire department. With the department came the ability to access a government grant during the summer to hire local students as the department's groundskeeper. My great-uncle, Grunkle, and chief firefighter, would personally interview any students that applied and oversee them once hired. It was a basic 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday with weekends off for 6 weeks, and mostly included painting the building, trimming the nearby trees, maintaining the kick, fire training, house, waxing the engines, etc. I talked with Grunkle, and he explained something that wasn't covered the first time he told this story. These summer grants had and still have very specific rules and regulations that need to be met in order to prevent fraud or embezzlement. One such rule was that anyone hired must work the allotted time that the grant was signed for. If the time was off by a noticeable amount, say, a whole shift's worth, without a valid cause, this would warrant an investigation that could cost the fire department thousands of dollars. It's imperative that anyone employed met these hours, and Grunkle made this very clear to any and all candidates. Grunkle hired a sophomore kid in 1995, who he recalled as Rick, obviously not his real name. Rick seemed like an upstanding young kid, and had what my Grunkle described as a dependable feeling to him. So after a promising interview, Grunkle offered him the job. Rick had one small problem though. He was attending hockey camp for the first week he would be working the grant, and asked Grunkle if he could still go to the camp. Grunkle thought it over, and figured he could make up the time if he worked on Saturdays when he got back. He would still have Sundays off, and fill in the time worked on those weekends as the time for Rick's off week. Rick said that would work, and they shook on it. Rick worked the first 2 weeks as promised, and without any grievances. The kid was attentive, smart, thorough, and polite. Then one day, he came and asked Grunkle if he could take an upcoming Saturday off. Grunkle said that he couldn't, because then the grant would end before Rick finished his hours owed. This is where things went wonky. Rick would ask consistently for that Saturday off, almost daily, if not more often. When Grunkle didn't budge, Rick's mother called up Grunkle and asked him on Rick's behalf for the Saturday off. When she too was shot down, Rick's father tried to persuade Grunkle over the phone, and when he failed, both of Rick's parents teamed up at once. Needless to say, Grunkle was getting annoyed. It all came to a head after one particular day. Grunkle would regularly help my granddad and dad on the farm with odds and ends, and a special machine had broken down during a crucial time. It took the 3 of them, working about 12 hours non-stop, to finally get the damn thing running right. On his walk back to his house, Grunkle was confronted in person by Rick's parents. They kept saying things like, "Rick is a young kid, and his friends all go swimming on Saturdays. Could you just give him this one day off?" Grunkle sternly, but politely, reminded them that Rick had gotten an entire week off for hockey camp, and that he was making back that borrowed time by working Saturdays, but apparently that was different from an actual day off. They kept pleading, borderline demanding Grunkle to give Rick a Saturday off. Fine, Grunkle relented. If he wants the day off, he can have the day off. The two were very happy and promised Rick would be extra grateful when he came in on Monday the following week. "No, that won't be necessary. Tell him he has Monday off too. And Tuesday. And Wednesday. Better yet, just tell him that he's fired. Their faces dropped like a bag of rocks. Pleads of "Oh no, you can't do that, and he doesn't need Saturday, he needs this job," followed suit, but Grunkle had made up his mind. They wanted to pester him for even more time off than he already got. He could have the rest of the summer for all he cared. As fire chief, his decision was absolute, so there wasn't anything that Rick or his family could do. Doesn't mean they didn't try though. Manager tries to make life difficult for me, doesn't know as per my contract it benefits me. This happened a couple of years ago. I was working on a part-time basis in a small firm owned by friends. Pay was not very good, but the atmosphere was, and I was allowed to set my own timings. So life was good overall. Then a friend whom I knew only through social media approached me for a job in her company. Even though they were offering good money, I turned down the offer as I knew I could not get the benefits I was getting in my current job. Plus the commute to the new office was very long. I would have to travel 2 HRS one way and change 3 trains just to reach office. A month later the HR of the new firm approached me again. They offered me almost 4 times the money I was making, and I could set my own work hours. There was also extra pay for working overtime and on weekends. This was important. I joined the new company. My friend did not know the terms of the new agreement I had with HR. She used to act like I owed her big time for the opportunity one got. So one day I corrected her. I told her that I had turned down the offer she had been part of, and 1 month later I had had my own negotiations, and I got much more favorable terms. So I was here because her company really needed me and not because of her. I didn't share the details of my agreement with her, but we both realized that she was making significantly lesser than me. This totally changed her attitude towards me. Now she wanted me out, and I was determined to stick through for at least a year. So she decided that she would make it very difficult for me to work, so that I quit on my own. There are a lot of stories I have about how she tried every trick in the book to make me quit. I'm sharing some of them here. She was my manager and was in charge of allocating work. Malicious Compliance 1. She started piling on more work on me than any other member of the team. I was happy to comply. She did not know that as part of my contract I would be paid 1.5 times the hourly rate for every hour I worked OT and 2 times the hourly rate if any work was allocated to me over weekends or holidays. Every time she tried to ruin my weekend by calling me to office unnecessarily, I happily complied. This continued till the time I left the organization and told her how much extra money she had helped me make. Malicious Compliance 2. After the long commute to work, I used to be hungry, so I developed the habit of stopping at the food court to pick up a glass of fresh fruit juice and carry it with me to work. My manager thought that this way she could harass me without actually seeming to do so. So she sent a notice that bringing liquids to office was a hazard. Ironically, she used to have coffee delivered to get desk 3 times a day. Well, I pointed out that the rule applied to her as well, and if I couldn't have my juice, she couldn't have her coffee. She had to literally spend an extra unpaid hour at work every time she wanted her special coffee. Meanwhile, I was happy to leisurely sit in the food court, have my glass of fresh fruit juice with some snacks, and then begin my workday half hour later than usual. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.